Hey everyone, Elfkan here. Today we'll be going through the process of designing something from scratch. So first of all, we have to start off with a cartridge to base everything around. So I'm thinking of making something that's 7mm. And we're gonna have this is gonna be like a smaller round. So just having a nice Spitzer shape here. And we are going to give it a total jacket. This just means that everything is covered except for the back. And for this particular round, I'm going to make it about 20mm, 19. Nice 7mm round. Nothing special is needed here. And for the casing, let's just reference our materials quickly. 430A versus B. Here, 430B is a pretty clear favorite. And for this nation, we're going to assume that they're using a boxer primer. For the rim type, let's have it rimless. An interesting thickness here. We want the total to be a pretty small profile overall. $9mm to diameter. And of course, no rim needed. So in total, we will have a $50mm casing. Let's do a generic name. So we'll have that saved for now. So next up, we need our propellant. So now we know the stats of our actual projectile, how wide it is with the 9mm. We can see here that RLG is a very fast burning propellant compared to everything else. Has less force in general overall, but it's suited for the small cartridges that we want to make here. Let's have a single perforation, and we understand that it's going to be not long. So what we can do here is just make the web thickness really small, kind of what we're aiming for. This is a small 2-gram pellet. And let's just give it a generic name. So this should be all right for our purpose. go back. Let's load up the Tory Propellant. So we're only going to have one layer. And this is kind of just guess and check to how much we can load. If you have like a calculator or something, feel free to use it. Yeah, I'm just going to cycle through numbers. Okay. So we have 1359 of propellant in there, of those tiny strands. So this may not be completely accurate, but it's close enough. Alright, now let's design our receiver. So if you have something as a reference, you can feel free to use that. But for this, we're just going to go typical 4140. $10.20, and we are going to have a simple bolt action. Make sure we have these up and running. Have a nice milled receiver. Depending on what you want, this will change drastically. But we will have simple disassembly, have the barrel threaded on. And we want a rotating bolt. Depending on what you're looking for, front or back. In general, many do use the front. Back is for when you want a bit more tolerance and a bit simpler pull. Let's have 2 locking lugs for safety. The oldest designs used 1, but eventually they learned to make things a bit more durable and having that feel safe there. Simple bluing and carburization. Let's have the integral box with 8 rounds. Inched floor plates, 1020, normal steel. I'm using the Tory as reference. So we're going to have a stripper clip for this one. For the injector, let's make it nice. A nice belted bolt with the bolt threaded. And depending on what you want, this here can change. But we're going to have a cock and close, like many other rifles. Keep the ergonomics of this nice. Just a single action with a 1 kilogram base weight. And I'm going to have this at the bottom. It should be nice. Let's give it a generic name. So this receiver might seem very light, half a kilogram. The cost is pretty hefty. Otherwise, I would think that this is a very nice and reliable unit that we have here. Okay, let's get those clips in as well. We can actually have it out of the lighter material, although I'm not sure how much more that would cost. Let's check that. $316. Okay, has about the same or more density. So just based on your cost measures for basic steel, 1070 seems to be a good choice. Clip, clip, and we'll have this stick at 4 rounds. So our Tory cartridge here. We don't need any other additional metalwork. Just 4 rounds. Tory 4 round stripper clip is what we want. Okay. Now that we have that, we want a nice barrel. So for something of this cartridge size, we want about 500 to 550, or perhaps a bit less in length, just to keep things in proportion with the accuracy and also just the general carrying weight of the entire system. This is very broad. You might have your own way of doing it. Let's make sure you have a recessed crown. That's very important. So again, if you're not sure what you want to use, I would recommend for 140. To 500mm long barrel with rifling. So make sure that is compatible. And for normal use, you generally will want to choose helical or polygonal. Helical is more of my manufacturing style, so I'll choose that. And for twist rate, right now you'll have to guess how many twists you need. For me, I'll just put 20 as a baseline. So now we have our barrel here, and let's just go to the range to check things out. Okay, so here we'll see that the barrel deforms from stress instantly. That's not too big of a problem. Let's just thicken this up. Whoops, sorry Pete, sorry for disturbing you. But here. Okay, it's still deforming from stress. Let's see how thick we need this. Or otherwise, we will just change our pattern up. This is just a normal part of the process. Okay. So this is already a very thick barrel. So what we want to do now instead is just adjust our cartridge. So maybe we don't need all of this propellant. Let's just cut it in half for now. Okay, interesting. So this here says it's 0.002 grams. So if the RLG is a bit too thick, how about 500? How do you feel about that? No? Okay, so if we have just that much, it does work. So that might not be exactly what we're aiming for, but again, just simply adjust. Wow, okay. Well, there's something very drastic happening in between this and that. Okay, so the thing I see as a problem here is that this RLG burns a bit too quickly for this particular purpose. So let's just change this to an M26 propellant instead. And this should be safe to use. Okay, so it burns a lot slower, and we do have the barrel length to support it. So now we can go ham a bit. Okay, yeah, so this is a lot more reasonable. So the barrel lifetime cycles are a bit low, so either you want to increase the thickness or adjust the propellant. For me, I'm going to adjust the propellant a little more, just tweak it. So this burns a bit too quickly. What I'm going to do is just to make it a bit wider to increase the web distance so it doesn't burn up all at once. And now we have a much more reasonable lifetime. Of approximately 200 million rounds. Good muzzle energy and somewhat decent muzzle velocity. So if you want to adjust it more, then you're going to have to play around with the system more and adjust the propellant, barrel, other stuff. So since we have this really reasonable lifetime, now what we want to do is to adjust the accuracy coefficient into more of the safe side. And also we can reduce our barrel thickness to save on costs there. So this is still on the thicker end. And let's increase, or just lower the amount of twists in the barrel. Okay, so it should be within what we're looking for soon. So let's just reduce that, increase this by a lot more, our twist rate, and we should have a reasonable barrel with a good life cycle and also a good spin that is not intrusive but also helps with stabilization in our accuracy. So now that we've got all of that down, for example, you can use this in a loadout if you wish. So we have our Fang infantry rifle. So we want to load our receiver, Fang, and the barrel. So we're going to have a nice hardware stock with receiver and barrel, sorry. And we're going to cover most of it in nice fashion. Here we're going to have a nice full stock with a semi-grip. Just for reasonable comfort. A ladder aperture sight and a post. And for this, as you can see earlier, you want to put your average muzzle velocity for these types of built-in sights that you want to use. So in this case, for this one's going to be 700 meters per second. I have a cleaning rod, sling attach, bayonet lug. And here we have a pretty reasonable rifle. Just remember the cost here is the cost to assemble and put things together. The other components that you've made, they're going to be billed separately in manufacturing. So in total, this is a decently light gun. It's not super light, but it's at a reasonable weight. And there you go. There's our firearm. And we can place that in a loadout with our Tory 4-round stripper clip that we made before. And build up our loadout from there. Anyways, hope you guys enjoy the video. If you found it helpful, please do like and subscribe to support the project. And happy crafting!